and sluts. My name is Renos, but you can call me Jessie. And today, me and Miss Friend here are going to tell you my opinions on Multiverse of Madness. I saw it a week ago, and I wanted to take time to really gather my opinion together before I put it out there. I didn't want to just start talking an hour after before I had time to really let it set in, because it was a lot to take in. Sam Raimi's directing was very different than the typical MCU formulaic movie. It had horror elements in it, which I found refreshing. I'm typically not a horror fan, but I thought it was a good touch for this movie with the unhingedness of Scarlet Witch in this movie. It really enhanced that and showed how destructive the Darkhold could be in the wrong hands. I think the cinematography was brilliant. My favorite scene was the music note battle. I thought that was just beautifully done. I was intrigued. I thought about it hours after it happened. It was such an interesting concept, and I loved it. I thought the soundtrack was really good, and I didn't know until the credits that Danny Elfman was part of it, and as soon as I saw his name, I was like, oh, that's why the soundtrack's good. Love Danny Elfman. I had a serious problem with this movie, though. It had wonderful, wonderful potential, and I was very excited because I thought it was going to have Sylvie and Loki in it, but it didn't, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about who was in it, which was my girl's Wanda. Except the thing is, Wanda wasn't there. Scarlet Witch was there, which is okay, but they didn't make that enough of a point in the movie. The idea was the Darkhold took over her mind in that last scene of the finale of WandaVision, where she's doing her little thing. She hears her kids cry out for help, supposedly from another universe in the multiverse. However, I do watch YouTube commentators, so if it sounds like I'm repeating something they said, I probably watched their video and agree. I agree. I'm not trying to copy, but I agree. I think it was the Darkhold taking hold of her mind and telling her what she wanted to hear, so it could have more power over her. It used the motivation. Hi, Cake. It used the motivation of her wanting to find her kids and be with them to make her do these evil things. Do you want to tell people what you thought about the movie? That's a really good opinion. Thank you for sharing. You are so smart and talented. Sorry, I'm going to make a little segue there. You know who else is talented? The actors in this movie. Elizabeth Olsen. She really shined in WandaVision. That really gave her time to show how talented she is, and she brought the skills in for this movie. Her character may have been terribly written, but she acted the hell out of her terrible little part. So when I sit here and hate on this, what they did to her in this movie, it has nothing to do with Elizabeth Olsen's performance, because she did her absolute best with what she could. Let me go back to what I was talking about before the boy interrupted me. So basically, the Darkhold took a hold of her mind and made her try to find her children in the multiverse. The problem is, they didn't make enough of a point of that in this movie. They didn't really specify, like, oh, the Darkhold is completely in control of her, so she's just the Scarlet Witch. She's not Wanda anymore. They hinted at it in the scene with Charles Xavier where he went to pull her out, and then they just massacred that scene by killing him off immediately. Do I think the scenes were cool with the Illuminati characters and her fighting? Yes, I thought it was cool. I thought the deaths were interesting. They were very graphic. I went with a baby to see it, so I was like, his little eyes the whole time. But it just, it felt cheap. I was like, you really brought these big budget characters in just to kill them immediately. It felt so pointless to me. Specifically with Charles Xavier, I think there should have been more of a moment there where he pulled her out and she had sympathy for a minute, and then the Darkhold took her back. It shouldn't have just been immediate like that. I think that would have made for a much more interesting scene and really showed more of his ability versus hers and given them more of a struggle there. So, last thing I want to touch on is, to me, it felt too short. When I looked up the runtime, I was confused on why it was only right about 2 hours. Initially, I saw rumors that it was supposed to be like as long as Endgame, and there were supposed to be more characters brought in than that, and I don't know what happened to that, but maybe it was just rumors. Maybe somebody just tweeted it and everybody thought it was going to happen, but were the crossovers that we did get interesting? Yes. Was I freaking out that Carter was in it and she said, I can do this all day? Yes. I almost yelled out, hell yeah, brother, in that theater, but I was with a very unenthusiastic audience, so I refrained. But what happened? Like, with a big concept movie like this, the multiverse of madness, that's just begging for extra content, and we just got a really condensed down movie. When it ended, when he fell to the ground and yelled and his eye opened, I thought there was going to be another scene. Like, I thought this was the end scene, like the third act. I thought that was the beginning of the third act, and then it just ended. I was like, where's the movie? You know, it felt like they just took a chunk out of the movie or a concept out and then forgot to fill it in. It felt hollow, and I left feeling unsatisfied, which is not what I want to feel when I go into the theater to see this big movie. And I love Scarlet Witch. She's one of my favorite characters, and I felt unsatisfied with her story specifically because a YouTuber I watched touched on this. I believe it was Screen Crush. He said her story arc already happened with the grieving and the trying to make a fake world that isn't hers happened in WandaVision, and she already had this arc. And I feel like we just ignored that and tried to give her the same thing again. And they also pointed out, you know, this other vision at the end of the show flew away, and where was he? Was he just chilling? Did he know any of this was going on? Did we forget about him? Because I feel like he could have come in and brought Wanda back and gave us some redemption there, instead of just her being like, oh, my kids might not like it if I kill their mom. Was it a heart-wrenching scene? Yes. But was it very hollow and unearned? Also yes. So, basically, my conclusion of this movie was, it was okay. It had its really good moments. But the movie as a whole was so lacking. And those really good moments just didn't feel earned almost, because the rest of the movie was just mediocre. I think an improvement would have been some sort of more arc for Wanda, if you just added like maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the movie, kind of showing what happened with Vision, even mentioning Vision. Was she going to get her kids to try and have them with Vision? Who was their father in this other world? What was her goal? Was she gonna go to their world and replace the mother? Was she going to bring the kids to her? Could she go into a world where the kids didn't have their mother and then it would be happy for them? Were those the only kids in the multiverse? Were they only existing in this one world? Was that Westview? I just feel like a little bit longer spent on her story and why it had to be that way would fill out this movie. Mainly I wanted to make a video because as a Wanda fan, it was really hard to accept this character that they put on screen. It didn't feel like Wanda at all. It felt like they just jumped to Scarlet Witch and it wasn't earned. I understand she was heartbroken and grieving, but we covered this in WandaVision, and you can't just ignore that because you literally put a clip from WandaVision into the movie. If we were acting like the shows and the movies were separate, maybe you could make this work, but you can't, because the whole plot rides on the show, and you just threw out the redemption arc. It doesn't go together. It's like you just decided to make an alternate ending but not explain why. It was almost like we were with a different Wanda than we left at the end of WandaVision. It was very frustrating. I'm gonna stop now. Thank you for hanging out with me and Miss Friend and letting me rant to you about my passion for Wanda's arc. Please comment your opinions about Wanda's arc, about the movie, about anything that has to do with this. Do you think there was a part cut out that should have been in there and they just took out? If you have a theory on what that could have been, please let me know. I haven't really decided what I think that part would have been. It just feels hollow and empty to me, so I feel like I'm still searching for what was supposed to be there. Thank you again for watching. I'll see you next time.